In order to answer graph questions like this, you're going to need to use a ruler in order to work from one axis to the other and see where the line graph would meet those axes. You can see this line graph here works its way across the chart, working from temperature on this side to time on this side. So the first part of the question says estimate the temperature when the time was 3:15. Now I don't know what the temperature is going to be, so I'm going to have to work from what I do know, which is the time. And I can see that between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock there were 1, 2, 3, 4 jumps. So if I know that if I split an hour into 4, they're going to be 15 minutes each. So 1 o'clock, 1:15, 1:30, 1:45, 2 o'clock. So I know that if I'm looking for 3:15, it's going to be the first line after 3 o'clock, which is here. So I would use my ruler, and on here I've got a ready prepared line that you would draw with your ruler. So I'm going to draw my line from the axes up to where the line graph meets it, which would be there. And I would then draw my line across from that point to see where the temperature would be on the other axes. So I'm going to grab my ruler and then draw a horizontal line across from that point over. Now, if I zoom in slightly, I should be able to see what is going on this axis this side. So I've got the degrees here, so I'm going up in 5s, and each line in between there it must be worth 1, so I'll just double check that we've got 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 and then 15. So here I've got 20, 21, 22, 23, so it's between 22 and 23, and I would be estimating, it does say in the question that I need to estimate the temperature, so I'm not going to know precisely, but I'm going to be using how far between those two I think it's likely to be. And I can see that working on my graph, it might be a bit more accurate on paper, but looking at my graph it would appear that it is halfway between those two increments, so it's halfway between 22 and 23, which would make it 22.5. So in my answer box there I would write 22.5. My decimal point clear. And then in the next question it says estimate the time when the temperature was the highest. So I'm going to be looking here is where the temperature was at its highest point. So I'm going to be using my ruler line again and trying to draw a line down from that point to see what time it was. So I can see from that get my graph back in the right place, that if 3 o'clock was here and this was 15 minutes earlier, I know that that would have been 2:45, that would have been 3 o'clock. Halfway is just before halfway, which would have been 7.5 minutes. So I would say that we're talking about 10 to 3 would be my guess. 2:45 was there. It's closer to 2:45 than it is 3 o'clock, so we could say 10 to 3. So in my box I'm going to write 2:50 PM. And finally it says how much did the temperature change from 2 o'clock until 2:30? Give your answer to the nearest degree, which would indicate it's not going to be a whole number. So between 2 o'clock and 2:30, so I've got 2 o'clock there, and 2:30, which is going to be 2 lines across, which will be here. So I'll get another line, 2:30, fact, I can see that that is just before 17 degrees. I come across from my ruler line, just before 17, and at 2:30 it's just before this one here, which is 21, 22. So I know that from 17 to 22, if we say that it was those numbers, would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 degrees. So as I'm talking about to the nearest degree, I can call that 6 degrees.